how has the Doi Moi policy affected the economy and agriculture in Vietnam?
Doi Moi policies have produced very positive fruits in general in Vietnam. Vietnam overcame deficiency in food production, and now Vietnam is the second biggest exporter of rice, only after Thailand. Out of the total supply of 26 million tons of rice in the world market, Thailand and Vietnam supply about 6 million tons and 4 million tons respectively. High economic growth was achieved as the policy liberated the energy of the laborious people. Of course, the present overproduction of rice reflects, on one hand, positive results of efforts of hard-working peasants and government policies to overcome food shortage and to realize the food security policy. However, one of the serious challenges for Vietnam at the present stage of development is the widening gap of income between the urban and the rural areas. Government figure indicates average income in the rural area is almost one-fourth of that in the urban area.
Roughly 80% of the Vietnamese population is reported to be involved in farming. Professor Shimis, you did a survey around farm villages in the northern part of Vietnam recently. What problems did you find in the area, especially in the field of agricultural production? And how are local communities tackling these issues?
This time I visited Hanoi as a member of a group of cultivators from Tochigi Prefecture of Japan. We visited Tai Binh and Haizun provinces in the Red River Delta to find every effort was done to maximize rice production through double, triple cropping in a year. However, I found in order to develop more profitable rice cultivation, it is still necessary to improve labor productivity through various measures, including consolidation of land. Besides, it is also important to diversify agriculture without depending too much on rice cultivation. We visited a prosperous lychee cultivator in Haizun province who succeeded in diversification of agriculture. I found there are also the necessities to develop other industries in the rural areas to absorb surplus labor there. The government of Vietnam is putting a special emphasis on the problem, and I believe this policy orientation is very much justified. Employment issues should be solved in the rural area, particularly in the north, as much as possible, and I believe Japan can contribute much in this field.
Professor Shimis, as an expert on agricultural theory, what is your impression of the current problems that are commonly seen in Vietnam's farm villages?
The government has come to the conclusion that helping farmers and agriculturalists export is the number one priority this year. Particularly, coffee and rice suffered from decline in the world market in its prices. The sense of emergency is reflected in the government policy to exempt land use tax for all poor farmers nationwide and all households in the country's poor communes. This is the first time that Vietnam announced cutting the exempting land tax for a farmer for a whole year, in spite of the fact the state budget will lose in revenue, not only in the north, but also in the south, in the Mekong Delta. To a greater degree, Vietnam faces now new challenges, such as the overproduction of rice, accompanied by a big fall of market prices as much as 20%. Some rice are utilized as feedings for fish and pigs. The export rice is stagnant. Government is now recommending a diversification away from rice. For the moment, a reduction of 700,000 hectares in land under rice cultivation in the Mekong Delta is targeted. If this reduction is realized, land under rice cultivation will be reduced from 3.94 million hectares with 16.7 million pounds of rice paddy to 3.2 million hectares with a production of 15.5 million pounds. At present, rice paddy production in the Mekong Delta occupies 51% of national output of 32 million tons. In order to overcome the impending difficulties, one option is to raise the level of quality of rice to a level up infrastructure such as storage and transportation facilities so that Vietnam can expand its export market much wider for agricultural products. Another option is to turn from rice to other agricultural products such as vegetables, fruits, animal husbandry, and fish culture. The presidents are looking for diversification away from rice, as other commodities are very often more profitable. Fruits such as longan, pineapples, mangoes, oranges are more cultivated. In this connection, it is worth mentioning an interesting revival and reassessment of the regional crop rotation system, which called VAC, Agricultural Rotation Policy. Here, we stand for Vuong in Vietnamese, meaning vegetable garden. A stands for Ao, which means pond, meaning fishing, and C stands for Tune, meaning stable. As a whole, VAC stands for rotation in the same field, such as vegetables, cultivation, fish culture, and livestock industry. In the Mekong Delta, VAC R rotation policy is recently mentioned, adding R, which stands for green, meaning paddy field. The VAC policy indicates the possibility of positive combination of rotation and more sustainable agriculture. The expansion of double or triple cropping in the paddy field for the last decade did contribute to the rapid growth of rice production in Vietnam. However, this kind of cultivation tends to deteriorate land paddy field, destroying natural recycle system. According to supporters of VAC policy, each stage is intended to prepare for the next stage of different cultivation, keeping land quality. Here, I have to point out that fish or shrimp, which are cultured of special species in sweet water. This kind of fish culture does not damage the paddy field. My personal opinion is that Vietnam should be ready to return back to rice paddy-oriented agriculture anytime because of food security and also for expected shortage of rice in the world market in the future.
Many farm villages are reported to be setting up agricultural cooperatives in Vietnam. Professor Shimis, what sort of cooperatives are local farmers trying to establish, and what do they hope to accomplish through these cooperatives?
Agricultural cooperative law was issued in 1996, and the government expects its activity to expand in order to raise the relative economic status vis-à-vis non-agricultural sector. Vietnam has a big expectation of the Japanese cooperation in the field of the agricultural cooperatives, and I found in Vietnam that the present effort is concentrated on the mechanization of agriculture through cooperatives, prioritized field building of infrastructure such as water conduit and agricultural road. But at the same time, another function which is expected to grow is a sort of the common bargaining function of agriculture cooperatives to purchase of input such as fertilizer as a sort of the agent of the various farmers.
Vietnam is in the process of reforming its agricultural policies in line with Doi Moi. Professor Shimis, how can the Japanese experience be applied to present problems in agriculture in Vietnam?
There are three areas in the field for cooperation between Japan and Vietnam. One is a sort of the technical assistance, because the agricultural system in Vietnam is very similar in the sense that the farming is much more labor intensive. And the second one is a sort of the creation of the industrial sector in the rural areas by inducing the processing industry for agricultural products and so on. And third field is a sort of Japanese experience in mobilizing the savings of the farmers and the peasants, so that those the savings could be utilized again as credit to the farmers themselves at comparatively lower interest rate.
Finally, Professor Shimis, as we mentioned earlier, this past April, Non Duc Man was appointed as the General Secretary of the Communist Party, which is Vietnam's most powerful post. How popular is Mr. Man among the Vietnamese public today?
Mr. Non-Duk Man brought a breath of fresh air among the leadership in the party when she was chosen as the new General Secretary of the Communist Party at the 9th Congress of the party last April. She is comparatively young at the age of 61, and she is of an ethnic minority of Thai. She is expected to play as a sort of symbol of national unity in Vietnam where ethnic minority issues were given a renewed emphasis. As for economic policies, he is known to be more liberal and committed to refresh strategic economic packages. His determination to pursue multi-sector economy was welcomed among the business circles. I got the impression that he is welcomed by general public because of his modesty and flexibility in policy orientation.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Professor Shimiz.
Thank you very much, Roman.